Give me a clean heart, so I might serve Thee, Lord, my heart, so that may be used. Lord, I'm not worthy of all these blessings. Give me a living heart, and I'll follow Thee. I'm not asking for riches of this land. I'm not asking for cathedral grand. Give me a clean heart, and I'll follow Thee. Give me a clean heart, yeah, and I'll follow Thee. Give me a clean heart, so I might serve Thee. Lord, my heart, so oh Lord, I'm not worthy of all these blessings. Give me a clean heart. Give me a clean heart. Give me a clean heart, and I'll follow Thee. I'll follow Thee.
The theme of the Bible, it's Jesus and how He died to save me. the plan of salvation assures us He's coming back again. Are you ready for Jesus to come?
I think miracles and good shouts, and people leave with no doubt. Man, they different when they step out. I've seen legs healed and arms stretched, men's hearts refreshed, lost girls leave kept. And after years witnessing all that, who would think I could lose contact with you? What do you do when it gets like that? You strip it down and rebuild it back with truth. So I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Climbing out of the trees, getting back to the root. I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Jumping down from the clouds, getting grounded in you. I've heard every song and Sunday word, the profound, the absurd, and I study, cause I'm a nerd. I've heard that God's good and he's real, and the devil, he'll steal faith over what you feel. Yeah. And I promise I still believe all that. It's simple things that you must come back home to. Ain't complex with you. Oh no, I can give my best, even give what's left, but I can't move mountains if I lose step with you. Oh, so I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Climbing down from the trees, getting back to the roots. I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Jumping down from the clouds, getting grounded in you. So if you lose your way, get back to the basics. Somebody needs to pray. Get back to the basics. God's love is still the same. Get back to the basics. Come back and find your faith. Get back to the basics. Yeah, his hand don't pull away. Just get back to the basics. You're not too far today. Get back to the basics. There's sun after the rain. Back to the basics. There's healing after pain. Back to the basics. La 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 la. Get back to the basics. La 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 la. Get back to the basics. La 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 la. Get back to the basics. La 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 la. Get back to the basics. Oh.
Are you faithful in all that you do? Have you fought a good fight? Have you stood for the right? Have you lived in Jesus? Are you ready to stand in your place? Are you ready to look in His face? Can you look up and say, this is my Lord? Are you ready, Jesus? Don't cling to this world and its treasure. This old earth soon pass away. Oh, give him your love without measure. He's calling you today. Are you ready for Jesus to come? Are you faithful in all that you do? Do you fight a good fight? Do you stand for the right? Oh, can others see Jesus in you? Are you ready to stand in your place? Are you ready to look in His face? And you look up and say, this is my Lord. Are you ready, Jesus? Are you ready for Jesus? Are you ready for Jesus to what the world needs now is sweet love. Think of your family, lend him my helping hand. Put a little love in your heart, just do it. You see it's getting late, please don't hesitate. Put a little love in your heart, just do it. And the world will be a better place. And the world will be a better place for you, and me, and just wait and see, for you to wait, and see another day go by. Still the children cry, in your heart.
I've seen miracles in good shouts. People leave with no doubt. Man, they different when they step out. I've seen legs healed and arms stretched. Men's hearts refreshed. Lost girls leave kept. And after years witnessing all that, who would think I could lose contact with you? What do you do when it gets like that? You strip it down and rebuild it back with truth. So I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Climbing out of the trees, getting back to the root. I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Jumping down from the clouds, getting grounded in you. I've heard every song and Sunday word, the profound, the absurd, and I study, cause I'm a nerd. I've heard that God's good and he's real, and the devil, he'll steal faith over what you feel. And I promise I still believe all that. It's simple things that you must come back home to. Ain't complex with you. No, I can give my best, even give what's left. But I can't move mountains if I lose self with you. Oh, so I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Climbing down from the trees, getting back to the root. I can't believe that I'm back to the basics. Jumping down from the clouds, getting grounded in you. So if you lose your
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and especially we appreciate your patience. It just took a little bit of extra time today for Professor Buffington to conclude with his earlier engagement and to get in place for today. But this is the Reclamation Project, where we believe in no soul left behind. We're here to provide a platform for both believers and non-believers to ask those tough questions, even when they're controversial, seemingly blasphemous, or otherwise offensive. It is our mission to give answers that are rooted in science and evidence where at all possible, but most certainly objective ones that aren't based or depend on our feelings. At the end of the day, it is our hope that you'll achieve a better understanding of God, which we know improves your perception, hence also your impression of Him. After all, understanding is both a difference maker and a deal breaker. And well, if you're already a believer, welcome to the opportunity of perhaps relearning some things in the Bible. So we thank you, and we're just happy that you've joined us. Has man lost his sense of purpose? If you believe so, you're not alone. One of the enduring purposes has been safeguarding the nuclear family, not only from physical harm, but from other threats. How effectively do you think he's fulfilling his role? Maybe it's time to assess his performance based on the original mission entrusted to Adam by God. Professor Michael Buffington is up today, and he is going to shed light on the current challenges men face in defending their original purpose against forces seeking to alter it. This is part 4 of What is a Man? Professor
Hey,
Buffington, to have you back.
it's good to be here. I apologize. I had a speaking engagement and everything went a little long. It doesn't usually do that, but I am glad to be here once again.
Yes, yes.
Okay, folks, we're going to get right to it. We have been talking about manhood. You know, many of us don't really understand what manhood is, and it could be for a number of reasons. It could be because we are surrounded by misrepresentations of manhood. It could be because, you know, we ourselves didn't have an example of manhood, or maybe we just didn't have a father at all. But for whatever reason, if we don't have a proper example of what a man is, we will oftentimes make mistakes in life that will prevent us from conducting ourselves in ways that reflect true masculinity, healthy masculinity. Now, in the world and in the society that we're in, what's happening is people are trying to conflate machismo and toxic masculinity, and they're trying to take that with healthy masculine tendencies and conflate it and ball it all up together in one and call it all toxic. But that's not the case. To be a good man, to be a healthy man, to be a kind man doesn't mean that you have to be a beta male. You can still be masculine and strong and still be loving and kind and respectful to others. But today we're going to talk about something specifically because many men get themselves into trouble, into serious trouble, when they don't have control over their emotions. And when men have feminine emotional tendencies, the types of behaviors and actions that you see from them are anything but healthy and anything but masculine. So I want to talk about that today, um, because in this we're kind of in a backwards, upside down, right shoe on the left foot society. And typically, when we think of men who are not masculine, we might think of men who maybe they walk a little soft, little light in the loafers, as they put it, maybe a little limp wristed, knock kneed, couldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight, those type of men. Um, and when we think of a real man, what we think of is we think of macho man, right? Um, when I was a young child, in fact, I one of my favorite songs, ironically, was sung by a bunch of gay dudes. It was called called "The Village People," and it was called "Macho Man." And the song went, "Macho, macho man, I want to be a macho man." I used to run around singing that song all the time. I love that. It was one of my favorite songs. One of my favorite wrestlers when I was a kid was a wrestler by the name of Macho Man Randy Savage. And so, because society has taught us that machismo, right, being a macho man, that is masculinity. And the problem is that there are men sitting in jails right now because of their machismo. Um, but the truth of the matter is that being violent, lacking self control, being verbally and physically abusive are unhealthy attributes that have been labeled as manly and macho, but they're anything but. And in response, you know, society, what they've sought to do is feminize men by what I said earlier, conflating unhealthy machismo with healthy masculinity, and then just calling everything toxic and attempting to feminize little boys and if they don't act like girls by putting them on Ritalin and things like that. The problem isn't real masculinity, because that's healthy, right? We need real men to protect our families and to protect society. That's biblical. That's healthy. That's desirable, right? The problem is that machismo is actually an amalgamation of masculine and feminine tendencies. And when you combine male masculinity with female emotional tendencies, what you get is a very dangerous person. Um, During the 94th Academy Award, it was on March 27th, 2022. A comedian by the name of Chris Rock was on stage, and he told a rather, well, in my opinion, a rather lame, innocuous joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, who is the wife of Hollywood megastar Will Smith. And initially, Will Smith, you know, he laughed with that fake Will Smith, that fake Will Smith laugh that he does. But as he was laughing in his fake Will Smith laugh, he turned and saw his wife roll her eyes because clearly she was not a fan of the joke. And so instantly, without, you know, hesitation, Will Smith puts on his cape, and he jumps on stage, reaches back, and he slaps the taste out of the mouth of the much smaller, much physically weaker Chris Rock. And then if that wasn't bad enough, Will Smith returns to his seat, and one of the most undignified acts that I've ever seen, he shouts, "Keep my wife's name out of your..." No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. He said, "Keep my wife's name out of your blankety blank mouth." Right? And you had, you know, all these black men were seeing that going, "That's weak. Dude's a sucker." I mean, when I saw that, I told my wife, I said, that's the weakest move I've ever seen in life. That's not how a real man gets down. But black women loved it. Oh, he was defending his woman. They loved it. Why? Because that's how a woman might have acted. But a real man should have conducted himself differently. And to be honest, I was kind of disgusted. I was like, that's just weak. You know, I'll tell you what a real man would have done. A real man would have gotten up, you know, would put his arm around his wife and said, "It's okay, baby. I'm going to take care of this." And that real man would have taken her into the back. And when Chris Rock would have came backstage, a real man would have said, "Hey, Chris, let me holler at you for a minute." A real man would have said, "You know, Chris, I know you're just making jokes, but, you know, you've made a lot of jokes at the expense of myself and my wife. We're constantly targets from jokes. And, you know, the jokes hurt a little bit more when they're coming from you because, you know, we know you. We have a history with you. And so I want to ask you, man to man, if you could please stop making jokes about my wife because it hurts her and it bothers me because I don't like to see her hurt." And, you know, Chris Rock, as a real man, he probably would have said, "You know what? I'm sorry. Okay, I respect. I'm not going to do that anymore." Now, if Chris Rock said, "Hey, go take a hike. I'll do whatever I want," maybe you're having a different conversation. But that's how a real man would have approached it, right? A real man moves a certain way. You know, the difference between men and women is that women are often driven by their feelings and their emotions. And men are naturally more pragmatic and solution-oriented beings. I'm not saying one is better than the other. We're just different, right? As men, we should not be at the mercy of our emotions. And if we look at the biblical example of manhood in Christ, you know, we could depend on God alone to empower us to have self-control. But as we've looked at in previous installments of the What is a Man series, the father's been under attack by those who want to destabilize our society for decades. This is nothing new. And men without fathers or men without present fathers often have issues in this area, right? Because we're many times raised by women, and to our own detriment and the detriment of others around us, we have taken on these feminine emotional tendencies. And to be clear, I'm not here to attack women. I'm not a misogynist. Love my sisters, right? I'm not saying women are bad, but I'm absolutely saying that when you combine male masculinity with female emotional tendencies, that's dangerous. So how can you identify feminine behavior in men? Well, I'll give you a few signs to identify feminine behavior in men. Number one, a man who likes to complain. Okay. Why do people complain? Um, Psychology Today says that commonly we complain about circumstances we feel powerless to control and don't really expect to change. Complaining is prominent among people who feel that they have low status in situations or feel that their status is slipping, right? Um, you know, it, it's, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it should not surprise you that complaining is a common female response to stress and anxiety. You know, the Bible calls women the weaker vessel, right? Oftentimes women, feel powerless to change situations, whether it be relationships in the home, whatever it may be. So they tend to kind of, that's a common female response to stress and anxiety, is to complain. But society today has by design moved to make men feel just as powerless as women in the deliberate emasculation and feminization of men by robbing men of the knowledge of God and the God-given power that they have. And as a result, many men, instead of getting up, manning up, and handling their business like a real man does, they have taken on the female tendency to complain a lot. So it's not just women that are complaining all the time. It's now many men who are taking on this female emotional tendency. And to be honest with you, there are physical and emotional consequences to complaining, because complaining literally rewires your brain for negativity. If you complain, you are going to be a negative person. There could be 10 positive things going on in your life, and you will focus on that one negative thing. In an article I have here from a website called Talent Smart, it says how complaining rewires your brain for negativity. It says repeated complaining rewires your brain to make future complaining more likely. Over time, you find it easier to be negative than to be positive. Regardless of what's happening around you, complaining becomes your default behavior, which changes how people perceive you. And here's the kicker: complaining damages other areas of your brain as well. Research from Stanford University has shown that complaining shrinks the hippocampus, an area of the brain that is critical to problem solving and intelligent thought. Damage to the hippocampus is scary, especially when you consider that it's one of the primary brain areas destroyed by Alzheimer's. So complaining can actually expedite or speed up or trigger the onset of Alzheimer's. This is why in Philippians it says, "Do all things without murmuring and disputing." Like Paul's telling us, don't complain. That solves nothing. Find a solution, right? Quit whining and do something. I'll say this at the risk of drawing the ire of some, but I feel like I can say this as a Black man. People and men who are living in a state of victimhood are not acting like men. If you're blaming all your problems on demand and society and this, yeah, I get it. Things aren't fair for us. I get it. Trust me. I know. I live in California. I'm surrounded by all these liberals who say all these empty platitudes, but don't really they tolerate us, but they don't really like to have us around that much. So I get it. But you look at Black Lives Matter, and it's all about victimhood, right? And I find it rather ironic that it was started by 4 Black women. Anyway, the Greek word that's translated complainer, it literally means one who is discontented with his lot in life. It is akin to the word grumbler. So, and if you seek to be a Christian and you look at that list, the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5, complaining isn't exactly one of the fruits of the Spirit. In fact, it's detrimental to the peace, joy, and patience that comes from the Spirit. So for a Christian, Complaining is destructive and debilitating personally, and it only serves to make our witness more difficult, because who, for instance, would be attracted to a religion whose adherents are dissatisfied with life and who are continuously complaining, grumbling, right? Why would they want anything to do with your little religion? A real man is not a complainer. Men are action oriented. You see a problem and you prayerfully move into action to rectify it. That's how we roll, right? And when there's nothing you can do to remedy the problem, you pray and you leave it in the hands of God. That whole serenity prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the rest of that, there's more to that little serenity prayer. We don't know that. But it says, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace, taking as he did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely with him forever in the next. Amen. That's the full serenity prayer. That's how you have peace, not by complaining, right? Second sign, you're an overly emotional man. A real man, like I said, doesn't react like Will Smith. A real man has mastery over his emotions. Men are exhibiting feminine traits when they start every sentence with, well, I feel, men are designed by God to be, by nature, logical, pragmatic, and to operate from facts, not feelings, right? And I'm not saying that discussing your feelings are bad. In fact, one of the steps of nonviolent communication is to discuss your feelings in response to an observed situation. But if all you want to talk about is your feelings all the time, that's a problem. Because of this, we're literally at a point in our society where right and wrong doesn't even matter anymore, right? Right? Who cares about morality, right? What's right and what's wrong? If you said something that I didn't like, because God forbid that I should have to listen to any opinion outside of my own, and if I got my feelings hurt, well then I can. It's okay for me to hate you and want to lynch you and cancel you and ruin your life, right? But there's an even more dangerous side to not having your mastery over your emotions, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with machismo, because you have a physically capable and strong man, and when that physically capable strong man responds to being emotionally injured in a feminine manner, then the results can be absolutely destructive. In the book of James, it says that every man should be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for wrath worketh not the righteousness of God. I used to run in the streets. I've talked about this before. And a lot of us had fathers who were not present or no fathers at all. And as a result, we were raised primarily by women, and we learned female emotional tendencies. And what did that look like? You saw a lot of violence in the streets that originated from not liking or appreciating the way that somebody else made you feel, right? Somebody made me feel embarrassed. Somebody made me feel bad, stupid, whatever it was. And so now I'm gonna punch them in the mouth. Like, that's just how it was, right? Learning to be calm when you're disrespected is a superpower. Like I'm gonna say it again. Learning to be calm when you've been disrespected is a superpower. And it's one that takes a lot of time and a lot of prayer to develop. And to be quite honest with you, I struggle with that till this day. And the reason why is because ever since I was a child, I had a deep disdain for bullies and people who try to assert their dominance over others. I don't do well with that. And the effect that it had on me was that I was short-tempered, violent, menacing, and hard-hearted. And I could have very easily ended up dead or in jail. I was just talking to a friend the other day about a bunch of stuff that had happened when we were teenagers and how I'm lucky to be alive, you know. Um, but it was those types of uh, responses to being emotionally injured that could have caused me to be dead or in jail. In fact, the vast majority of men that are in jail for violent crimes are there because of the way that somebody made them feel in the streets. You know, because when you combine male masculinity with female emotional tendencies, you'll get somebody who will kill you over how you feel. You know, or, and the problem is that you will calm down a couple days later, but that man will be just as dead as he was 2 days ago. I hope I'm making sense. Um, a real man recognizes that if he's angry, he needs to get his behind somewhere and calm down, because the consequences of giving into your anger are just too high. It's just too high. As a man, your chief responsibility is to take care of your family. And what good are you to your family if you're rotting in a jail cell? Now, that doesn't mean that we have to allow ourselves to be disrespected, but it does mean that we need to develop healthy ways to maintain boundaries of respect without sinning. Jesus was the master at this. Um, and, you know, in the streets, we also get the impression that thugs and gangsters those are the real men. You know, a lot of us learn how to be men from NWA and all these little gangster rappers and stuff like that. But thugs and gangsters, they're not men. You know, they're immature males who lack the emotional security and self-control to respond appropriately to difficult situations. That's the facts, you know. Um, if you're angry, you know, the bottom line is that you have to get somewhere, sit down, and calm down, because anything that you do out of anger uh, typically will come back to bite you square in the behind. That's just how it is. And, you know, I'm telling you this because, not because I'm better than you, but because I've messed up a lot in this area. Even as a Christian, you know, I have to die daily, like Paul said, because, you know, that old weak man with those feminine emotional tendencies that I had tries to resurrect itself, and I need to keep it dead and buried. Um, and that's why I give myself a 48-hour rule. Like, I give myself 48 hours to calm down, and you know, then I do whatever I have to address the issue calmly, or I don't address it at all. If I can't do it calmly, I just walk away. Real men move a certain way, you know, and that's why I was so disgusted by the whole Will Smith and when he slapped Chris Rock, because real men don't move like that. Um, you know, but like I said, you know, black men were like, that's weak, you know, whereas, you know, the vast majority of people that were applauding Will Smith in that situation were black women. Why? Because he stood up for his man, you know, but he did it in a feminine way. Um, like I said, you know, a real man would not have let his wife be injured or disrespected, but he would have handled it in a way that was manly and dignified. Um, but that's not what some women want, you know, and that's why you have to be careful who you marry, right? Some women, when they feel disrespected, they want you to jump up and go and engage in an altercation to protect their honor, right? Protect their honor. Um, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say this at the risk of upsetting some people. But some women like to run their mouths like men and act unladylike and undignified themselves. And when a man responds, they turn to their man and, you know, and talking about, oh, you gonna let him talk to me like that? I used to see that in the streets all the time. And this is why you got to be careful about who you marry and who you with, because some of these women will book a fight for you and walk away with their untempered, you know, unchristlike behavior, and then walk away, and you'll be fighting somebody you had no beef with, and then you'll end up dead or in jail, and she'll be off with the next. Maybe that's too much truth for some of you all, but I'm here to keep it real. I'm here to keep it real. We're talking about some very real stuff, you know, because you'll be walking out of that situation, you know, if you didn't handle it the right way with dignity and integrity, looking like Boo Boo the Fool, like Will Smith. Will Smith looked like a fool after he did what he did. Um, man, I'll say this: I know one particular pastor who has a wife that's very vocal, and she's always coming for people on Facebook, and just mouthy and obnoxious. And when somebody fires back, he comes to her aid. And instead of saying, sweetie, I have a ministry. I'm trying to reach out to people. I'm trying to, you know, give people Christ. And you're over here having silly Facebook arguments. And then you expect me to come and defend, I would have a different conversation with it, but I'm not going to say who it is. I'm just going to tell you what I see. Another feminine emotional tendency is a man who likes gossiping. Um, you know, that's a particular issue that a lot of women have, but a lot of men, when they've taken on those female emotional tendencies like gossiping as well, real men don't have time to gossip because they're busy. They're too busy trying to build their kingdom. They say, um, uh, they say that, you know, big minds talk about ideas, small minds talk about people, and so as men, we have bigger fish to fry than to be sitting around gossiping about people. Um, another sign of feminine behaviors in men is that you're easily offended. Easily offended. You're like walking around like an exposed nerve. You become resentful and you have a very low threshold for what is considered offensive. Jesus, that's why he said, blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. Like, you can't just be walking around getting offended all the time. Oftentimes, if we just ask for clarification, we go, oh, okay, you didn't mean, okay, cool. And even if someone did mean to hurt us, that's not our problem. Like, I've said this before, somebody could call me the N word to my face, and my natural reaction to that at this point in my life would probably be to laugh, even though it's not really funny. But I probably would laugh like, you are so dumb. Like, if you think that you're going to steal my joy and my power and have any sort of control over my emotions and my day and my mood, you are a fool. A real man is not going to be easily offended, but that's the way society is telling us that if we're not offended by absolutely everything, and if we don't, every time somebody does or says something or jokes in a way that is not politically correct, if we don't stand up and get offended, then we're not good people. And to be honest with you, real men are not going to get offended all the time. I'm going to speed up and just finish up because I know we started late. Another sign is a man who is argumentative. Not one who likes to debate. We can always have a good back and forth about things, but one who always likes to argue. That's different. There's a difference between debating and arguing. Real men talk and can exchange ideas with respect. Okay. Another sign is that you're a coward. You're non-confrontational. Now, you don't have to be a brawler, and you don't have to have huge muscles to be a man, but you do have to have a spine. And you had better be willing to protect your family from danger and stand up when you see wrong being done. The philosopher Plato, he said, the price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. And a man who does not offer to help, when they is another sign of a man with female emotional tendencies. Like, they don't have that hero instinct. They may offer sympathy or information, but they don't rush to help because they don't have that that hero instinct is dormant. And so there are a lot of ways, you know, there are a lot of ways that men should handle situations that are healthy, and there are a lot of ways that are unhealthy. The problem with society today is that we've taken the idea that men who react with anger, violence, who are easily offended, you know, that they're toxic, you know. And the fact of the matter is that real men move a certain way. And when real men are in control of their emotions, they can keep themselves out of trouble in ways that men who are not in control of their emotions cannot. And that is why you see so many deaths, so many people in jail, you know. And these men, as they mature and as they get older, they'll look back and they'll realize, but sometimes it's too late. Now they're spending 25 years of their life in jail for a murder that they didn't have to commit, you know. And I thank God very much that I didn't have a gun when I was a teenager. I had access to them, but for whatever reason, I was like, nah, you know. I was a little bit more of a brawler. I like to throw fists, but I thank God that I didn't have access, because who knows what would have happened. But at any rate, I know that there might be some people who disagree with what I'm sharing, and that's fine. But I think men will understand the importance of being in control of your emotions and taking time to calm down before you address something, if you can't do it calmly. Because addressing something in the way that Will Smith did will only leave you feeling embarrassed, hurt, and less than a man. So I hope you all enjoyed that talk, and I will see you next time.
What you been saying, God would call you home soon. Do-do. Oh, do-do. Oh, do-do. Oh, Jesus is coming. Yes, it won't be long. Won't be long. Jesus is coming, and I'm going home. I got a feeling, so strong, so strong. Jesus is coming. Oh yeah, it won't be long. Jesus is coming. The Lord is not slack concerning His promises. Jesus is coming. As some men count slackness. He's coming back again. Jesus is coming. I can feel it. It won't be long. I've never been to heaven. I've been to the streets are paved with gold. Thin sheets of gold. Swing low, sweet chariot. Swing down, so I can step on board. I'm kinda tunnel vision. I'm kinda still. See, my mind's on one. I won't be moved. It doesn't matter what the world say. I'm getting ready for the glorious day. I know that Jesus is coming back. It won't be long. Won't be long. Jesus is coming, and I'm going home. Came by to say, I got a feeling so strong, real strong. Jesus is coming. It won't be long. I've been built, I've been scorned, just as sure as you're born. Wind blow against my building, but I'm straight and I'm strong.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sean B., and you're tuned into the Reclamation Project, where we believe in no soul is left behind.
When when I look around me. I know it won't